The Broken Blueprint, Part 3, An Important Letter. The 1908 Burden Letter to RUBLE. In the spring of 1908, John Burden, the pioneer administrator at Loma, wrote a letter to Dr. W.A. RUBLE at the General Conference. Burden envisioned a medical school founded entirely on spirit of prophecy principles. It is unfortunate that, within a very few years after 1908, the situation at the Loma Medical School began to change. But in this one letter, we find a remarkable overview of the entire controversy. Wells Allen's RUBLE, 1868 to 1961, had been a missionary to South Africa and, later, principal of Claremont Union College in that nation. Returning to America, he graduated in 1906 from Kellogg's American Medical Missionary College with an MD degree. RUBLE, at the time this letter was written to him, was prominent in a medical advisory role at the General Conference in Takoma Park. Unknown to both Burden and himself, 2 years later, in 1910, RUBLE would be elected to the presidency of CME, 1910 to 1914, and chairmanship of the Medical Missionary Council, which in 1913 became the General Conference Medical Department. In this letter, Burden was trying to impress upon RUBLE the importance of adhering to spirit of prophecy principles at the Loma Medical School. Burden was only 46 years of age when he wrote this letter. After the changeover began in 1910, he continued on as a non-medical manager at CME for several years. However, from 1910 onward, he was shut out from the major curricular policy changes which took place. In 1916, Burden was transferred to the management of the Paradise Valley Sanitarium. Before his death in 1942, he must have wept often at the course taken later by the College of Medical Evangelists. It had become a lookalike medicinal drug training institution, mirroring the other medical schools in the land. Keep in mind that the same year, 1908, the loss by the denomination of the Battle Creek Sanitarium and the American Medical College in Battle Creek had been finalized. John Harvey Kellogg and his medical and legal associates had effectively stolen it. See the present author's book, The Omega of Apostasy, mentioned earlier and now in our Doctrinal History Track book, for the complete story. Our leaders were wondering what direction the medical training school at Loma should take. As the following letter indicates, by 1908 there were 4 different views in the denomination as to what should be done at Loma. It eventually becomes clear in the letter that John Burden was urging our church leaders to adopt the 3rd view, described below, and push it through to success in state governments throughout the nation. In the following letter, you are going to find answers to the puzzling question of how, at that time, we could have obtained official recognition while adhering fully to the blueprint in our medical missionary work. As you will recognize, Burden's letter to RUBLE was both a warning and a prophecy. In the following letter, brackets and all emphasis are ours. Loma, California, April 13, 1908. Dr. W.A. RUBLE, Takoma Park Station, Washington, D.C. Dear brother, I regret that I cannot be with you in the special council of the General Conference Committee, as I presume, in bracket first view, some attention will be given to the question of advanced medical work in our schools. Loma has been pushing forward in this line, in harmony with the light which has been coming to us for a number of years, and especially since the purchase of this institution and the establishment of the work in Washington. It has seemed to us that the Lord is calling for an advanced medical evangelistic training at both of these centers. We have also felt that there was more or less lack of understanding as to just what is called for in this advanced medical educational move. In brackets, second view. Some have felt, and have so expressed themselves, that all that is called for is what we have been attempting in our sanitarium nurses training schools with perhaps more Bible instruction and field experience added. In brackets, third view, others have felt that there should be a more advanced training in theory and practice, both in the science of the healing art as associated with the work of the third angel's message, and possibly become as recognized as those who graduate and could secure state recognition would be at liberty to practice the healing art the same as other physicians. In brackets, fourth view, others have seen no place for a medical school short of a thoroughly qualified institution to compete with the medical colleges of the world. We will designate these various ideas as numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. In brackets, first view, proposition number 1 is everywhere recognized among us. It is a work, in a measure at least, understood. In brackets, second view, the nature, place, and work of number 2 are beginning to be recognized by many. It is readily seen that for foreign missionaries to be qualified with an advanced training in the healing art, to be capable of diagnosing common diseases and applying what we call rational treatments, would greatly increase their usefulness in the work. In brackets, rational treatments was a phrase commonly used back then for natural remedies, in contrast with the giving of poison, drug medications, to sick people to make them well, which obviously was an irrational type of treatment. Another synonym later used in this letter is hygiene, which also means to clean out and restore. For the same reason, our early workers called their treatment centers sanitariums, since they only gave natural remedies which were sanitary and cleansing. They sanitized or cleaned out and restored the body to health. In contrast, the hospitals of the world dosed the patients with dangerous chemicals. It is easy today to identify poisonous drugs. They are the ones which have contraindications and euphemism for dangerous side effects. Close bracket. This is the work that was recommended at the medical convention held at Loma Linda, that the Loma Linda College of Evangelists should strengthen its faculty to carry forward. This work was also endorsed at the Pacific Union Conference held at St. Helena a few months ago, and it was there recommended that the Union Conference and the General Conference unite in helping to carry forward this work, particularly in the way of furnishing the school with such instructors as were available. In brackets, third view, recommended by Burden. As the legislature of California has opened the way for the students of such a school as the Loma Linda College of Evangelists to be legally recognized to practice sanitarium methods of healing or rational remedies, some have felt that it would be wise to have the school chartered under the law that such students as complete the entire 3 years course and whose qualifications enable them to pass the state examinations might be free to work as other recognized physicians, i.e., they hold the positions in our institutions and comply with all the requirements of the law. This we would designate as proposition number 3. Otherwise, no matter how well qualified they may be to do the work, they would of necessity have to labor as nurses under the direction of legally qualified physicians. In brackets, at the time Burden wrote this, state governments recognized natural remedies equally with drug medication. In brackets, continuing the third view. Our understanding of the testimonies is that while thousands are to be quickly qualified for thorough medical evangelistic work, some must qualify to labor as physicians. We have been instructed again and again to make the school as strong as possible for the qualification of nurses and physicians, and the opening of a way for its recognition, and especially in view of the fact that California heretofore has been one of the most difficult states for medical practitioners to gain recognition in, seemed to us a divine providence that they let us continue teaching according to the blueprint, coming as it did the next year after we had started our school. In brackets, note that Burden earlier limited this to practice sanitarium methods of healing or rational remedies. Burden did not approve of drug medication because he knew the spirit of prophecy was totally opposed to it. See chapter 16 in our Medical Missionary Manual, pages 229 to 254. Close bracket. The battle was fought by the osteopaths, but in brackets, instead of only approving the osteopaths, close bracket, the legislature then threw the gate wide open for any school whose requirements for entrance to the medical course were equal to a high school preparation on the 10 fundamental branches that underlie medical education. In brackets, Satan was working diligently to close the door so our physicians would not be able to operate legally unless they acceded to using drug medications, radiation, and all the rest. Surely, as we look back on it today, the situation looked hopeless and our medical work was destined to eventually be gobbled up by AMA accreditation control, which occurred. In bracket, but the above paragraph reveals what might have been if we had fought for legal recognition for natural remedies treatments using herbs, water therapy, and the 8 laws of health. God would have opened the door for us to have it. The osteopaths fought the battle and gained what they wanted. The chiropractors also fought the battle and gained legal approval for their method of treatment. More recently, nurse practitioners have gained the right to practice basic medicine without an MD degree, in spite of opposition from the AMA. It could have been done, and God would have opened the door for us. Think not that this is an idle dream. Read our Medical Missionary Manual. It was God's plan to enable our right arm to extend itself and open doors for Third Angel's Message evangelism throughout the world. The use of natural remedies alone, the only medical method which adhered strictly to obedience to the laws of God, could have had outstanding success if we had been willing to remain with them. But instead, between 1912 and 1922 and onward, we gradually complied, step by step, with every requirement placed before us by the AMA's Council on Medical Education. Because of our compliance, the AMA gained a full lock grip on medical and nursing education. The AMA's hidden objective is simple enough. Require that only those methods of treatment be used which make money for drug and medical appliance manufacturers. And what are they? Things that can be patented. It is a well-known fact that those manufacturers funnel the kickback money to AMA coffers through expensive ads placed in the journal of the AMA. The vast wealth of the drug manufacturers is legendary. Close bracket. Materia medica and surgery are both thrown out, so that a good, thorough school of hygiene or rational practice would have no difficulty of being recognized in the state. In brackets, materia medica was a Latin word. Medical materials, meaning anything swallowed, injected, or applied topically to the skin. In the 19th century, this included herbs and/or poisonous chemicals. But since the early part of the 20th century, the phrase includes only drug medications. Were both thrown out, that is, California state laws were totally relaxed, so that medical schools were not at that time required to instruct in the use of any particular type of materia medica or surgery. Close bracket. And should our school be recognized here, its students would have a vantage ground from which to secure recognition in other states, the same as osteopaths are being recognized. Their healing art is fast being recognized in all the states, but they have had to fight their way to the front with everything against them. Their opening the way will evidently make it easier, for a time at least, for other reputable methods of healing to become recognized. In brackets, this letter was sent to Dr. RUBLE to be read to our General Conference leaders. Elder Burden recognized in this an opportunity and was here pleading with the General Conference to step into it. But he explained they would have to fight every inch of the way, for Satan would oppose them. Elder Burden well knew the spirit of prophecy counsels that the natural remedy work was to be the entering wedge for our Revelation 12 verse 17 and 14 verses 16 to 12 message to the world, which was obedience to the law of God by enabling faith in Jesus Christ. Treatment with natural remedies and acceptance of our special truths about the law and the Sabbath go hand in hand. Both teach obedience to the laws of God. But, unfortunately, in the crucial years of 1910 to 1922, our leaders temporized and lost the opportunity. At the same time, on another front, Satan was working to separate the medical work from evangelism. He started with Kellogg at Battle Creek, and it intensified in later years as our medical training and physicians became professionalized. Contrary to the blueprint and the third view held by Burden, matters were arranged that only our MDs could diagnose, prescribe, and treat, and they were trained only in drugs and surgery while generally knowing little about natural remedies. God's plan, as revealed through the spirit of prophecy, was that only a few of our people were to become fully qualified to deal with the most advanced levels of sickness with natural remedies. Many others were to cure for common physical problems with natural remedies. This was Burden's third view. Close bracket. It certainly was a great misfortune that the American Missionary College, in Battle Creek, was launched under cover of the regular schools rather than under the banner of the healing art embodied in the third angel's message. And it seems to some of us that we shall make the same mistake they did if we undertake to follow their example in establishing a medical school whose very standard, if it is at all maintained, means commercialism from first to last, or else the students who graduate from the school will lose their caste recognized position, and standing with those who are following the medical practice of the present day. In brackets, the American Medical College, 1895 to 1910, was started by J. H. Kellogg, who was its sole president. It sought for and received accreditation by having a split campus, with the first 2 years of training at the Battle Creek Sanitarium and the 2 final years at 2 non-Adventist hospitals in Chicago. It issued 194 MD degrees before closing down due to lack of financial support and increasing accreditation demands. It also opened a fully staffed and equipped hospital in Chicago. Closed brackets. Not so with a new school which makes its own standard and wins its way by its merit. And that standard, if we understand the messages coming to us, is missionary, warp and woof, with the mercenary spirit entirely eliminated. Hence the name chosen, medical evangelists. We should like to be present at your councils and hear your discussion of this question. It is extremely interesting to us from the fact that we have had to face the issue and set ourselves to solving it, or else turn down some of the plainest message from the servants of the Lord that we have ever received. We realize that the question is more or less hazy to all, and possibly some see no light in giving it special consideration at this time. But we are of the opinion that God is calling this denomination to a reorganization of its medical work as truly as He called a few years ago for a reorganization of the educational work. Hence, we are moving forward in the best light we can obtain. We are anxious for your counsel and cooperation. We do not wish to be in the position of running ahead of others in this matter, and shall be glad for your counsel and advice. We only write thus fully that our plans and position and work may be clearly understood. We are perfectly willing to content ourselves for the present with working out the plan and developing persons of ability to carry on work as medical evangelists. If it is thought wise to lay aside the thought of legal recognition of the students when they have completed their course, we are willing to wait. But we feel most deeply that, in the light of the opportunities in California, The question of establishing a school whose whole influence and teaching shall be to qualify physicians to practice the most distinctive healing art of the third angel's message shall be given careful consideration by those who are interested in this subject and able to judge of the merits of the question. In brackets, you will note that the above two paragraphs could be interpreted by the General Conference as cancelling out the preceding urgent warning. Burden had said, we must make major changes. But then he says, but if you think there is no need of urgency, then we will do that. The problem here is that the church controlled Loma Linda, and Burden could not say otherwise without being fired. Later in this book, we will learn from Dr. Owen S. Parrott's memoirs that Ellen White had not wanted Burden to turn control of Loma Linda over to the church when he did. Burden later recognized that this was his biggest blunder. In brackets, fourth view. I am sure that as soon as the question comes up, the first thought will be of, in brackets, that the blueprint is merely, close bracket, a superficial medical education that would be a disgrace to the work of the message unless we can establish the fourth proposition, i.e., a fully equipped medical school after the world's idea, which could become a member of the Association of American Medical Colleges, in brackets, i.e., fully accredited. I do not believe that we should for a moment give countenance to anything of the sort. If, in brackets, as the Spirit of Prophecy states, much that is now embodied in the medical schools of the world is as useless as the maxims of the scribes and Pharisees, and if there are intricate studies that are a positive injury to the mind of the student, disqualifying him for the work he should do, and again, if much of your course is mere rubbish, would a medical school eliminating these useless things from its work and adding that most helpful healing agency, the influence of the gospel of Christ as revealed in the study of the scriptures, combined with rational remedies and the 10 fundamental branches taught in harmony therein? Would such a school become superficial simply because it stood alone and was not recognized by the modern schools of the world? In brackets, in the above paragraph, Elder Burden is pleading with our leaders not to seek accreditation from the secular agencies, close brackets. However, as I said before, I believe the essential thing is the qualification of the worker to do the work, and that is what we are seeking to carry forward. If it is God's will that some of these workers, when qualified, shall stand forth in the freedom of the law of the state to practice the healing art of the third angel's message, God will certainly open the way. Open brackets. He is once again saying that, if we persevere, we can, as have the osteopaths, obtain legal recognition for our advanced trained students to become physicians, fully recognized by state law without having to submit our school to AMA accreditation requirements. If we will do our part, God will help us do it on our terms and in full agreement with our standards and methods of medical work. Close brackets. For the coming year, it seems to us the only consistent thing to do is to move forward in harmony with the recommendations passed at the Medical Convention and the Union Conference, which encourage the qualifying of persons with an advanced medical efficiency to work as evangelists. Hence, we shall continue the regular medical evangelistic 3-year course as it has appeared heretofore in our calendars. Open bracket. In the above paragraph, the workers were to be qualified by taking their training at our unaccredited CME. But Burden continues, a 1-year quick course should also be given. Close brackets. It is also thought best to supplement this with 1 year's very thorough instruction for mature students, such as school teachers, Bible workers, graduate nurses, and ministers, who want to secure in a short time all that they are capable of taking in of this rational healing art, and combining it with their evangelistic work. We are therefore arranging for the best Bible instructor obtainable to carry that line along equally strong with the medical subjects. Open bracket. The following is an excellent paragraph, for it outlines the basic subjects taught at CME in its one-year course. The same basic courses were, of course, taught in expanded form in the 3-year program. Close bracket. The course will embody such subjects as hydrotherapy, practical and theoretical, massage, practical and theoretical, hygiene, physiology, anatomy, diaestetics, healthful cookery, healthful dress, the study of diseases and diagnosis, and medical evangelistic methods of fieldwork. Crowding so much into a year will necessarily make the instruction in each subject somewhat brief, and yet the course will be a wonderful help to those who take it, and also in the development of the work. We have asked the conference to release Elder Owen for the Bible work, and he has consented to come. We hope the General Conference and the Union Conference will see their way clear to cooperate with us in furnishing one instructor each for all or part of the course. Already, there are quite a number of advanced students applying to enter this course, several of whom are postponing going to a foreign field until they can secure this preparation, although some of them have been in school 2 or 3 years preparing in Bible lines for work in mission fields. Our capacity is limited. I am sure if the matter is worked out as the testimonies have suggested and is properly set before the people, there will be a great rallying, not only of workers now engaged in some part of the work, but likewise of graduate nurses who started in to become evangelists, but have lost their way because the path has not been blazed out sufficiently clear so they could find it. I will enclose extracts from the California law showing what is opening the way of state recognition for us here, that you may study the matter and be able to counsel us later as to the advisability of our planning to take advantage of the law, that the school may be recognized. Praying the Lord to bless you in this coming council, we remain yours in the Master's work, signed J. A. Burden. Burden letter to W.A. RUBLE, April 13, 1908. Instead of bedside nurses and physicians, Ellen White wanted evangelistic nurses and physicians. The blueprint included the training of large numbers of our laymen and laywomen in shorter courses for service as medical missionaries. The scope of the project was breathtaking. An early chapter in our medical missionary manual reveals that the blueprint called for all our people, to one extent or another, to become medical missionaries. 3 days after sending the above letter to Dr. RUBLE, Elder Burden sent a copy to Ellen White accompanied by this letter. Gradually, the local brethren, Elder Reeser included, are beginning to get clearer views of what the Lord designs this school to be. You will see from the letter to Dr. RUBLE, which I enclose, something of the way it is shaping in my mind. I noticed in your last communication that you cautioned strongly against the organizing of a school to compete with the medical schools of the world, saying that we were not prepared to qualify students to pass examinations under the state just now. I think you will see from my letter to Dr. RUBLE that our idea of a recognized school at Loma Linda in which we could qualify persons as doctors of hygiene and rational treatments would be a far less difficult problem than that undertaken by the Battle Creek School. However, it may not be wise to think of such a school at present, and we had better wait until we have developed the plan of qualifying evangelists thoroughly for their work and they demonstrate their usefulness before we seek for state recognition for our graduates to practice. John Burden to Ellen White, April 16, 1908. Burden erroneously imagined that he would be given time to develop the program at Loma Linda, prepare a number of qualified graduates, and then work on obtaining full state acceptance of a full physician's course equivalent to an MD degree. He was only 46 years old in 1908. But it was A.G. Daniels who was in charge, not John Burden nor W.A. Ruble. And Daniels, who had been trying to eliminate Madison since 1904, in 1909 would reject Ellen White's call to stop eating meat. He told P.T. Megan in 1911 that it was ridiculous to move out of the cities and was in no mood to be different from the world when it came to our denominational medical work. To inquirers who asked why he, the General Conference president, ate meat all his life, Daniels replied that he felt it was good for him. Within 2 years after he wrote his lengthy letter to Ruble at the General Conference, Burden was effectively pushed aside, even though it was not until 1916 that he was transferred from Loma Linda to Paradise Valley.